The comments better be filled with happy birthday wishes, I swear. Hey there, cinephiles. Today I am celebrating my 25th birthday by sharing my top 25 movies of all time. This won't necessarily be a full ranking, not at least until we get into my top 10. In general, these are movies that have shaped me throughout my life, or just ones that I have such a strong connection with. But alright, without further ado, let's get into my top 25 movies of all time. The first one up is Amelie. This is only a movie that I've seen twice in my life, and it's obviously not because I don't like it. I mean, you know? However, I end up thinking about this movie quite often. It's quirky, it's stylistic, it has a really likable main character. In general, there's just this sense of magical realism that I really love in the film, and it's one that I always think about no matter how long ago the rewatch is. Up next is La Dolce Vita. I've only watched this once for the same reason I've only seen Amelie a couple of times, and that's because it's just so hard to find. However, this is also something that stuck with me the one time I watched it. It's something I think about constantly and want to rewatch so bad. And in general too, Fellini is a director that I want to watch more of because I really like this and 8.5. Moving on now to Marriage Story. Every single time I rewatch this movie or even think about it, I just love it more and more. The editing and the writing and the performances, just everything about this movie is just so top tier bombast for me. And on this list, this is actually the movie that I might go ahead and rewatch as soon as I'm done recording this. Or at the very least, rewatch that scene of Adam Driver singing. Also, shout out to the one homage I made to this movie in my short film working title. My next two are actually Pixar movies. At 22, I have Ratatouille, and at 21, I have The Incredibles. This is just so easily to me not only my favorite, but what I think are the best Pixar movies. In Ratatouille, you get this beautiful message about following your dreams, especially if you have that passion and drive. And in The Incredibles, you get this wonderfully human tale about a family who just happen to be superheroes. Both movies are just major comfort watches for me, and I want to rewatch them very soon. Going over now what used to be my favorite movie of all time, and that's The Perks of Being a Wallflower. From high school until about halfway through college, this was absolutely, easily my favorite movie of all time. I just saw myself in Charlie for the longest time, and I also really loved the book. This was a movie that I would pop on once every couple of months, and I don't know, it would just make me feel seen. From the great music to the wonderful aesthetic of the 90s in this to just the absolutely beautiful performances. There's so much to love about this movie still. And even though when I rewatch it now, I know I've outgrown it, it's still a very damn well-made film. Up next, I have Hell or High Water. This is a movie that I remember having the chance to watch in the theaters, and then something came up and I wasn't able to, like just minutes before my showing. And then when I finally got to watch it at home, I watched it like 10 times within the span of a month and a half. I don't know why, but there's something about Taylor Sheridan's writing that it's just so rewatchable for me. All in all, this is just such a great and gripping time with so much emotion in it. And speaking of emotion, this next one will make you bawl like a baby, and that of course is After Sun. The father-daughter dynamic in this is just so incredibly well told, with how it's presented through memories and having this dreamlike quality to the film, as well as nostalgia take on it with the VHS and just the colors. All in all, this is such a great singular vision from Charlotte Wells, the director, that I cannot wait to see her next film. And this being her directorial debut is just so inspiring as well. Also, Paul Mescal, I'm glad you got nominated, but you should have won the Oscar. Alright, moving on now to Catch Me If You Can. This is the second greatest Christmas movie of all time. Yes, it's a Christmas movie because there are important scenes that happen around Christmas time, and a lot of the movie's themes are dealing around family, found family as well as bloodline. In general, I love the way this looks. Leonardo DiCaprio and Tom Hanks, you go back and forth for who you're wanting to root for, and just overall, it's a great cat and mouse story. And at the end of the film, you're left wanting more in the best way. Now getting into Babylon. This film was so underappreciated when it came out, and it still is. I know Babylon Hive is strong, but man, I wish this movie didn't put Damien Chazelle in a potential director's jail. I know he's gonna have a new film about a jail, funny enough, but man, this movie should have made way more money, and it should have much better acclaim because this is just so freaking amazing. Genuinely, for me, the only thing wrong with this movie is an extended scene, but everything else is just so freaking great that it outweighs that con. And if you want to see what it's like working as a PA, then watch this movie because some of the scenes in this, it's just so true to form. Moving on now to Moneyball. You know I had to have an Aaron Sorkin written movie on here, and Moneyball is just the greatest dad movie of all time. This is one of those that is just so insanely rewatchable to me, it's not even funny. I legit almost rewatched it again the other day, and I've already seen it so many freaking freaking times. Also just realized I put 2 Brad Pitt movies back to back. And for my next 2 at number 13 and number 12, I have the Spider-Verse movies. These are just my favorite animated movies of all time. Into the Spider-Verse, I watched at least 5 times in the theater, and every single time, I just cherish those moments, honestly. That's the way that I can put it. As for Across the Spider-Verse, I have it slightly above because it is better in almost every conceivable way. And for those that are saying it's not a full movie, you're wrong. And it's okay to be wrong. You can have your wrong opinion, but this movie just hits so well, and I cannot wait for Beyond the Spider-Verse to have a full, complete trilogy. I just really hope that those animators get paid and treated fairly this time around, though. Alright, and for the last film I have right outside my top 10, I have About Time. This is a movie that has 2 of the things I like writing most about in it combined into a great film, which of course is romance and time. Now, it's not exactly perfect, as there is one thing that I wish this movie touched on quite a bit more. All in all the characters feel so real, and the dad stuff is just wonderful. This is a movie that will melt your heart, and it's one of my comfort watches, no matter how sad certain things can be. And the wedding scene alone is just so charming. But alright, now we get into my top 10 favorite movies of all time, and this will be ranked. At number 10, I have Clue. The ideal board game to movie adaptation. I mean, it even has multiple endings, and the actual last ending has the best final line in a movie ever, with everyone in the cast just cranking everything up to 11. Everyone just delivers in this movie, and it has so many iconic moments to me. The flames on my head thing is, every time I watch this movie, I just laugh more and more, and it's just so freaking good. I don't think there will ever be a murder mystery movie that could top this for me. At number 9, I have Gremlins 2, The New Batch. Absolutely one of the greatest sequels of all time, because it just takes that franchise in one of the most interesting ways possible. I mean, for you yourself to kind of parody your own first movie while bringing in so many new aspects, it's just stellar. This has so many of my favorite fourth wall breaking moments in cinema history. And for those of you that know me, this shouldn't be a shock. If anything, it might be shocking to you that it's too low. At number 8, I have Everything Everywhere All at Once. If I were to ever make a movie, this would have been one of them that I made in my dream. The same year that this movie came out, I had this idea to make a movie about infinite realities and just kind of having that be this interesting way in which we look into relationships. So naturally, when this movie came out, I knew I had to basically kind of study it, which led to me basically watching it 4 or 5 times in the theater. This movie is just on another level because everything in this is just, it's so elevated and it's so wacky and it's so out there, but it's so grounded in its characters and its themes, and everything just blends together so damn well. This is a movie that I'm so glad won Best Picture because it just opens the door to weird movies with such human themes. And that's what we should be getting in theaters a lot more of, hopefully soon. And speaking of inspiration, at number 7, I have La La Land. Now, this is a movie that is just one of the major catalysts for me actually pursuing a film career. The epilogue alone is something that I can contribute to me actually wanting to go to film school, actually going to film school, and doing my best to try and be a film director. Also, Damien Chazelle being the youngest ever to win Best Director at the Oscars at 32 years old. It's just something I strive towards for sure, because him being so young and winning that accolade, it just shows that I could do it too. Not win it, I mean, hopefully win it, but direct, I mean. At number 6, I have Before Sunrise. This is the first film in what I consider to be the greatest trilogy of all time. Richard Linklater's direction, Ethan Hawke's performance, Julie Delpy's performance, those 3 things make this such an exquisitely beautiful movie. This is definitely one that I'll always recommend forever and always, and I love it so much, and it hurts that it's not even top 5, but I just love my top 5 that much more. At number 5, I have When Harry Met Sally. Nora Ephron here gives us one of the greatest screenplays of all time. This movie is so witty, it's so smart, it has perfect casting for this almost perfect script. Also, this is a movie that perfectly utilizes the holidays, because whenever New Year's Eve comes around, I think of this movie. And it's funny too, because in general, I do feel like this is also a fall movie. But nah, man, all in all, this is, I need to read the screenplay, like right now. Getting into my quote-unquote letterbox top 4, at number 4, I have Gremlins. I mean, for those that know me, you all knew that this was going to be top 4 at the very least. I mean, this is the greatest Christmas movie of all time. You have one of the best creature characters in Gizmo, and you have all of the fun of an 80s movie with some great puppet work here. It's a little spooky, it's very heartwarming, and just visually, everything about this movie is just so great. The vibe and the feel of it is something that I'll always remember, and this just deals with Christmas in such an imaginative way. At number 3, I have the criminally underrated Moulin Rouge. My favorite musical of all time is a jukebox musical, which I love musicals, but I guess this one just works so well. I still vividly remember the first time watching this in high school, and it hasn't left my brain since. Ewan McGregor, Nicole Kidman, everyone on this entire cast. I love all of the performances. I love all of the singing. I love all of the set builds and the visuals and how crazy Baz Luhrmann makes this movie. But again, at the end of the day, at the center of this crazy and wild story is this very human love story. At number 2, I have the most recent addition to this entire list, and that's of course the spectacular Past Lives. This very well might be the perfect script. Every single thing about this movie is so intentional and well thought out. From the lighting to the blocking to the looks to the dialogue spoken, every single thing is just perfectly placed here. It's insane to me that this is someone's directorial debut. A movie that I've now seen 5 times since it came out less than a year ago. This is something that will forever be a part of me because this is something that transcends filmmaking to me. And it would easily be my number 1 favorite movie of all time if it wasn't for the perfect Before Sunset. To me, this movie has the best ending of all time. And this is just about 2 people who meet 9 years after the first time they met, and they're just walking around in France. It is something so seemingly simple, and yet the emotion and the characters in this is so complex, and it's otherworldly. I forget I'm watching a movie and I actually feel like I'm there with these 2 characters. It's a movie about love and the complications of it, and just how life can sometimes get in your way, but destiny will always triumph. This to me is a perfect movie because this has just magic woven within it. But alright, those are my top 25 movies of all time. Be sure to let me know your thoughts on any of these movies down in the comments below. And of course, these are my top 25 as of right now. There are plenty of movies that could have made this list as well. It was hard making this list. It took me months to compile this. But alright, as always, thank you guys for watching, liking, and subscribing. Be sure to stay tuned for Made of Films content, and I'll catch you later.